Guten Tag.
Welcome to another German podcast.
My name is Herr Daly, and today we're going to be talking about the formation of the past tense.
In German.
So let's get going. Take out a biro and your copybook, because we'll be working through examples throughout this podcast. If you listened to the present tense podcast, we conjugated or we made a list of the verb machen, to do, M-A-C-H-E-N. So you're going to write down this sentence for me. Ich, I-C-H, mache, M-A-C-H-E, meine, M-E-I-N-E, which is my, and the last word, Hausaufgaben, H-A-U-S-A-U-F-G-A-B-E-N, homework. If you've listened to the German podcast on word order, can you label what is the subject of the sentence? What is the verb of the sentence? I'll give you a hint. The verb is always in second position. So that's mache. Okay, so let's go. To form the past tense in German, you will use the verb haben. Do you remember how to make the haben list? Say it out loud to me now, and I'll listen to you. Okay. Ich habe, du hast, er hat, wir haben, ihr habt, and sie haben. Okay, so that is one of the verbs you will need for making the past tense. The other verb you need to make the past tense is the sein verb. Do you remember how to say the sein verb, how to make the list? Okay, say it and I'll listen to you. Okay, ich bin, du bist, er ist, wir sind, ihr seid, and sie sind. Okay, so as I stated in a previous German podcast, the sein and the haben list are the two most important verbs in German, so it is absolutely necessary that you know them. If you are still unsure, go back to the podcast titled Sein or Haben with exercises to practice these before continuing. Okay, so I want you to write down what I say now. To form the past tense in German, you will use either the haben list or the sein list. So you're writing haben or sein, haben/sein. Then you're having a plus sign. And within this plus sign, you're going to write sentence and underline it. And what I mean is that you have the haben and sein list, and then after that, you're going to say the sentence, whatever you want to say in German. After the sentence, or the body of the sentence, the main part of the sentence, you have another plus, and you're going to have the verb in the past tense. Now, the majority of German verbs in the past tense begin with a ge, and end in a t or en. For example, the verb machen in the past tense is gemacht. So what you do is as follows. You already have machen written down on the page. Now, if we were to cross out the en of machen so that we are left with the stem, mach, M-A-C-H, to form the past tense, what we do, we add a ge before the mach. So we're left with gemach, G-E-M-A-C-H. Now, after the H in gemach, we are going to put the letter T to make gemacht. Okay? So that is how you form the past tense in German. So for example, the sentence Ich habe meine Hausaufgaben What is the past tense of machen? Gemacht. Sehr gut. Very good. So, ich mache meine Hausaufgaben.
Ich habe meine Hausaufgaben gemacht.
Now let's work with the other example, spielen, that we used in the previous podcast. Write down the word spielen, S-P-I-E-L-E-N, on the page. What do? You cross out the E-N, so you're left with Spiel. You add G-E before Spiel to make a Spiel. And what do you add to the end? A T. Then you'll have gespielt. So if I give you a sentence, ich spiele Fußball, how do we say ich spiele Fußball in the past tense? Ich habe Fußball gespielt. Now, German verbs, as well as having T at the end, they could also end in en. For example, gefahren. Note here that instead of having a T at the end, we have an en. With a lot of German verbs, you will just need to learn which verbs end in en or T in the past tense. Now, my first two examples of the past tense use the verb haben. But we also can use the verb sein for using the past tense. So how do we know when to use haben and when to use sein? A simple thing that I use to remember and also to explain in class is that you use sein or the sein list with verbs of motion or movement. M and M verbs. Okay? So I want you to write down on the page now. You use sein or the sein list with verbs of motion or movement. M and M verbs. Okay? What do I mean by motion? What do I mean by movement? Okay? So, verbs of motion or movement in German could be, for example, fahren, to travel, gehen, to go, schwimmen, to swim, Radfahren, to cycle, laufen, to run, spazieren gehen, to go walking. These verbs imply that the person doing the sentence, the subject, is in a state of motion or movement. Okay, so if I ask you to write down the sentence on this piece of paper, ich fahre mit dem Bus zur Schule. Okay, so that is the example we've had when we were talking about German sentence structure. Ich fahre mit dem Bus zur Schule. How would you put that in the past tense? Do we use haben or sein? Is fahren, fahre, traveling? Is it a verb of motion or movement or not? It's a verb of motion or movement. So we use the sein list. So ich, and what is the ich form of sein? Ich bin. Ich bin mit dem Bus zur Schule. Okay? As I've stated previously, verbs in the past tense, you take off the en. So when you have fahren, you take off the en, you're left with fahr. You put a ge in front of it, so you would have gefahr. Now you must decide whether you're going to use a T at the end of the word or an EN. In most cases in German, you will just need to learn off what verbs end in T and what verbs end in EN. So in this case, you will have Ich fahre mit dem Bus zur Schule. In the past tense, it will be Ich bin mit dem Bus zur Schule gefahren. I'm going to give you another example using the verb laufen. L-A-U-F-E-N. So, ich laufe, I run. I want you to write down how you would put ich laufe in the past tense. Okay, what did you get? Did you use haben or sein? Did you use ich habe or ich bin? Okay, it's ich bin. Ich bin gelaufen. G-E-L-A-U-F-E-N. So, at this stage of the podcast, we need a very quick way of deciding whether to use haben and sein and what we're going to do. So, take out your biro and your coloring pencils or highlighter, and I'm going to ask you to draw something for me. I want you to draw a Venn diagram that has 3 circles overlapping. So for example, you'll have one circle on the left and you'll have another circle on the right, but they'll meet in the middle and there'll be a section of the 2 circles overlapping. Once you have those 2 circles drawn, I want you to draw another circle halfway down, halfway beneath the first and second circle, and I want that circle to overlap with the other 2 circles. So you have a point in the middle where all 3 circles overlap and they share the same segment or piece of space. Okay? So we're going to label circles 1, 2, and 3. If you're looking at the copy straight in front of you, the circle at the very bottom, which is beneath the other 2, you're going to write in the word past tense. And you highlight it whatever color you want. Now, with the first and second circle, the first circle on your left hand side, in the space that is only for that circle, that's not overlapping any other parts, you're going to write in EN. And then you're going to shade it. Then you're going to go to the last circle on the right hand side, and in the segment that is only for that circle, that is not sharing any space with the other 2 circles, you're going to write the letter T. Now, in the space where all 3 circles overlap, so this is the space in the center of the 3 circles overlapping, where the EN circle, the T circle, and the past tense circle all share the same space, you are going to write in 2 words, haben and sein. And then you are going to shade in that common space that is shared between all 3 circles. Okay, so have you this done? Good. The reason why I asked you to do this is that in the middle, where the 3 circles meet, you have written haben and sein, and it's shaded to make it easier to see for you. That is because some students may think that you use EN endings with haben or T endings with sein, or vice versa. This is absolutely not the case. Both haben and sein both use EN or T endings. So there is no way of knowing whether a verb is EN or T, and whether the verb uses haben or sein does not tell you whether the verb ends in en or t. The past tense is made up of the stem, which is where you take off the en. For example, machen, you're left with mach. You add a ge at the start, and then you need to learn whether the verb takes a t or an en. And the only way to do this is learn the verbs as you come across them in your German class. Okay, so to end this podcast, I'm going to list out a couple of German verbs and put them in the past tense for you. Note that some of these verbs are irregular, whereby the main part of the verb does not change spelling, and some of them are irregular, whereby the main part of the verb does change spelling. There's no rules to tell you which change and which don't change. You just need to learn them off by heart when you come across them in class. So for example, you're going to write down the verb helfen, Helfen, to help. In the past tense, I helped is ich habe geholfen, Geholfen. So, geholfen, totally different from helfen. You just need to learn it. The next verb, gehen, Gehen, to go. It's a verb of motion. It's an M&M verb. It changes to ich bin gegangen, Gegangen. So again, totally different spelling. The next one is treffen, Treffen, to meet. That changes to ich habe getroffen, Getroffen. Again, totally different spelling. Finden, to find, Finden, changes to ich habe gefunden, Gefunden. Again, spelling changes. All of these examples are irregular because I want to show you that some of them, but not all of them,